Well, hi everybody, and welcome to day one of the 2023 Watercolour Advent calendar. I'm so grateful to see you here, and I cannot wait for an amazing 24 days of watercolour tutorials with you. But for now, let's see what's behind door one. Aha! We have an Advent candle wreath to start us off. Let's grab our paints and let's get started. Okay then, so let's get started. You'll notice I've got a bit of watercolour paper just guarding the lower levels. This is just also so I can lean on it and not worry if I've got any like marks on my fingers or anything. So yeah, that's what I've got, and also my little watercolour kit is all ready to go. Bit of kitchen roll, jar of water and an HB pencil. So let's go. So we're starting with this Advent wreath, Advent candle. So I am going to begin with a little sort of tuft of fir or pine, whatever, and I'm going to place in one candle, then one slightly higher, one even higher, and the third, and then we'll have the fourth one up here. So I'll do a little curved tops on them all, and then the wicks and the flames. Now I know that obviously it's day one of Advent, they wouldn't all be lit, but it's the Watercolour Advent calendar. We like to make our own rules just a little bit. Okay, so there's my drawing done. I'm going to begin by painting in the candles, I think. So I'm sort of looking for some nice sort of candly colours. So I've got some warm Alizarin crimson mixed in with some yellow ochre to start with, which I think might be quite nice. So I'm going to use my size 0 brush and begin by just sort of popping that in quite dilute and pale, and just allowing it to sort of fade away. And I'll just do this one here, so I'm giving them a bit of space. Then I'll bring it down. Because of course with watercolour you can always build up your layers, but it's hard to place in heavy strong colour to begin with if you want to then peel it back and remove. Okay, that's a nice starting colour, and then also I want to create a glow around the candles. So I've got some cadmium yellow, and I'm going to paint a dilute sort of bleed of colour, and it's probably going to end up sort of bleeding into the candles, but that's absolutely fine. It's kind of what we want. Okay, and whilst that is drying, I'm going to mix up some green tones for my little pine needles. Now obviously this is a bright green, which is very bright, so I'm going to just knock it back with some blue tones. I'm also going to mix together yellow and blue to make some slightly murkier greens. There we go, that's a really nice colour. So yeah, just play around with the tones you've got in your palette already and just see what you can come up with. So I'm just knocking back the vibrance of this green by popping some brown in there. And I'm really happy with those. Okay, whoops. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin by just painting in some little tufty lines of the pine needles, and the candles will have dried quite well by now, but I'm just still going to go cautiously. And I'm going to slowly start to build up and bring in a few different colours. What's really nice about this kind of paper is it will dry really quite fast, and so we can paint all these lovely little illustrations nice and swiftly. Now we have our base layers in, it's time to start building up the colour a little bit. So I'm going to create a sort of reddy orange with a bit of yellow and the red tone. And I will start to build up the candle as well with a bit of Alizarin crimson. So really I'm just sort of placing in a few lines of that colour, then with a clean brush just sort of smoothing it in, just to create a nice sort of rounded appearance, but also just trying to avoid the areas where I've painted on the top. So just getting a little bit sort of faded out in the glow of the candle. And then I've just added a little bit more of the dark blue and the burnt sienna into one of my green mixes just to make it a bit darker and more concentrated. And I'm going to come back in now, just sort of adding low lights to a number of the little branches, and you can see it just starts to really make it come alive. So the final step is just a last little bit of detail. I'm going to get some slightly more concentrated Alizarin crimson on the brush. I'm still just using my size 0, I haven't sort of felt the need to go down to 4/10 yet. And what I want to do is just create the little drip of wax. Also take a little bit of that red and just place a little bit in the flame as well. And then I will just create a little bit of a dark grey-brown with some burnt sienna and some of the Prussian blue. That's why it's much easier to mix colours with the larger brush, I must say. Right, and we'll just get that mixed up really nicely. And there we go. Day 1 complete.